Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, fine bottlers of Pepsi-Cola products in Alabama. And tonight, I've got an ice-cold Pepsi. You hear it right there. So smooth going down. Now, if you see me sitting up here by myself, you're wondering, where's Rodney Orr? Well, Rodney is on vacation down at the beach, but through the magic of technology, he will be joining us here in just a little while to talk Crimson Tide athletics with a special emphasis on football. So Rodney will be with us, and he'll be available to take your phone calls a little bit later on in the program as well. Now, we're just 39 days away from kickoff for the Alabama football season. And boy, it is coming fast. That means that, we are going to be able to take a look at our position breakdown later in the show. Fall practice with a breakdown of defensive backs, a position where Alabama was not at its best last season. We'll see what the Tide needs to do, talk about what they need to do to improve this coming season. But since it's still technically the talking season, Nick Saban was in Montgomery last week. Now, Steve Spurrier stole all the headlines discussing his future in Columbia, so naturally someone had to ask Saban about his future in Tuscaloosa. The coach, he said, Tuscaloosa has been a place that he and his wife Terry have laid some serious roots and set a foundation for the rest of their coaching lives.
Well, I think that a lot of stuff is time and circumstance, and certainly Alabama's a fantastic place to be the coach, and, we feel special to have the opportunity to be there. But I just think at this station in our career, we were looking for some place that was a fantastic, group of people to settle down with, and we certainly weren't disappointed at all in the people of the state of Alabama and the people that surround and support our university.
But has been the case, it seems like it's been the case since Saban has been at Alabama. There's always people wanting to say that he's looking to go somewhere else. Now, an unauthorized biography of Saban is about to come out. Unauthorized because he did not participate in the book, and the author was having to take quotes and publish material to come up with the book. But there is speculation, I'm told, in that book that, and among other people, that Saban might take another look at the NFL at some point in time. And, of course, the book also details the possibility that existed a couple of years ago of Nick Saban going to Texas. He did not go, but there's a lot in the book about that. So the question for a lot of Alabama fans these days is Nick Saban going to finish his coaching career at the University of Alabama? Well, I have to tell you for the record, I absolutely believe he will. I don't think Nick Saban is going to coach anywhere. He'll be 65 in October, and he has spent more time here as far as one stop than he has anywhere in his coaching career. He had a couple of different stints at Michigan State, so in terms of total years, it might be close. But this is the first time ever as a head coach that he will be going into his 9th season. His longest tenure prior to coming to Alabama as a head coach was 5 years at Michigan State and 5 years at LSU. He has now spent 8 full seasons at Alabama, about to begin his 9th. And according to some, is in a little bit of a rebuilding project. Even though Alabama won national championships in 2011 and 2012, they came up short of the conference and national championships in 2013 following the heartbreaking loss to Auburn. Then last year won the SEC, but fell to Ohio State in the semifinals of the first ever college football playoff. So I think Nick Saban feels like he's in a rebuilding mode. He wants to get this program back on top, and what I mean by that is a national championship. So yes, I think he is going to finish his coaching career at the University of Alabama. Of course, he's making a lot of money, too. Another big issue this offseason, speaking of money, has been cost of attendance. What will we see? How much will we see athletes receiving for their stipends for the first time? Originally, it appeared Alabama's figure was on the low side of the SEC, but in a new study conducted by CBSSports.com, Alabama's dollar figure has risen sharply in the past year to put it among the tops in the conference. And, of course, for the tops of the conference, it's going to be the tops in the nation. Here are the top 5 in the country according to the stipend amounts that will be paid out. And you see there, Alabama is third behind fellow SEC members Tennessee and Auburn. Louisville 4th, and another SEC school, Mississippi State, is 5th. So 4 of the top 5 player stipend amounts coming from the SEC. Nick Saban said at SEC Media Days, "This isn't a recruiting tool. It's just another way to improve the quality of life for student athletes." Former Crimson Tide standout Cornelius Bennett, the Biscuit, was in Montgomery last week as well, talking about that very thing, improving the quality of life for football players in the future. He spoke at the Alabama High School Athletic Association Summer Workshop about limiting contact in practice during game week to cut down on concussions. He also talked a little football and specifically the Alabama front seven.
The job that the kids have done over the last, since Coach Saban's been there, it's been tremendous. And he just keeps bringing them in. But this year, I think, you know, when people look and say, oh, this is the best group ever, whatever, it's good. It's always good to have a team that you're comparing them against the best that, you know, before those guys. So I think in itself, that's a great confidence builder for those kids. But you still have to go out and play on Saturdays. So, you know, you give me a few weeks into the season and we'll start comparing. But they do have the potential. Now that can work both ways, you know. They can live up to it, or they can live down to it. But I know Coach Saban, I know he'll have those kids ready to go.
Alabama's basketball squad is also gearing up for what they hope is an exciting season under first-year head coach Avery Johnson. Now, Avery brought a little extra firepower with him to watch workouts last week. Former Alabama stars Richard Hendricks and Robert Horry got a taste of what the Tide will look like under A.J. Horry, who is the proud owner of 7 NBA championship rings, thinks fans should go ahead and buy their tickets now because this is going to be a fun group to watch.
I got excited. I want to get out there and play myself. You know, when you play up-tempo basketball like that, it's exciting for the fans. It's exciting for the players. You know, the one thing about it, you're going to be a well-conditioned team, and I hope the players are ready for that. Avery's going to get them in shape, and hope the fans will come out and support one of these teams that get up and down and not play that slow-down basketball, some fun basketball.
And one game that had been rumored was confirmed last week. Alabama will play Oregon at the Legacy Arena inside the BJCC on December 21st. It's Alabama's 3rd overall meeting against the Ducks on the hardwood. It'll also be the first time the Tide has played a game in Birmingham since 2011, so a big deal there. Well, we got more coming up on Tider Insider TV, including a big settlement from the EA Sports lawsuit that's going to put some cash in some former Bama players' pockets. And next, we'll continue our countdown to fall practice with a breakdown of Alabama's Achilles heel on defense a year ago, the secondary. Rodney Orr will join me to discuss that coming up, and we'll also be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The information, as always, is posted there on your screen. The phone number is 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us at TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag TiderInsiderTV. We'll be back with more right after this. A big chunk of Alabama's production in the secondary from a year ago is gone. Landon Collins, Nick Perry, along with Jarrett Williams, they're gone. A lot of tackles, a lot of interceptions, a lot of experience. It's a big hole to fill for the Tide on the defensive side of the football, specifically in the secondary. And that's what we're talking about right now as we continue our fall practice position breakdown. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the defensive backs. Now, Rodney, this was a position last year that at times they played well, but overall I think we would consider it a weakness on the defense. Certainly a position that cost Alabama in some games, and they lost some experience back there with those 3 safeties graduating. How's this new look secondary going to come together this year under first-year secondary coach Mel Tucker, in your opinion?
Well, I think that's a great place to start. Mel Tucker, I think he's a big addition there back, you know, Gary, with his experience as a coach, and certainly I think he's going to add a lot. I think the players have really taken to him well, so I think that's certainly one big step in the right direction. I think when you look at the safety spots, those are the ones that have been, you know, kind of the biggest question marks with the departures of those guys that you mentioned. But, you know, Geno Smith's back there. He's got some experience. Eddie Jackson moved in the spring from corner to safety, and he, you know, looked pretty good, and we'll see if that move sticks. It seems like it's going to be a good move. And I think they've got a potential superstar back there, Gary, who is a true freshman by the name of Ronnie Harrison. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to make a major impact here this season. And, they've got guys like Hootie Jones, who's been around, and they've got another newcomer by the name of Sean Burgess-Becker, who certainly will have an opportunity. And, then when you look at the cornerback spot, I think that's really a position that's a blend of, some experience with guys like Cyrus Jones and Bradley Sylvie, who I thought played really well at the end of last year. Tony Brown got some experience as a true freshman. I think Marlon Humphrey has all the tools to be an outstanding player. Those four guys really kind of, jump out at you. Anthony Averett's a guy that got a lot of, praise from Nick Saban for his improvement during the spring. And I think two newcomers, Minka Fitzpatrick and Kendall Sheffield, are extremely talented, and they may, lend a hand somewhere. And I don't want to forget Maury Smith. I think he's going to be a big key at the star spot in the secondary. So they've got some numbers, they've got some talent, Gary. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
Rod, you did a great job of breaking that down and a lot of names. And you did mention a lot of names because there is a lot of players back there. This is an area where Alabama has recruited really well, but particularly at the safety position, as we've mentioned, and the corner opposite Cyrus Jones, if Jackson sticks at safety. There's a lot of talent, but there's not a lot of proven players back there. Then you add in, as we said, a new secondary coach. And early on, is this an area where you think they'll try to scheme some to protect some of those guys, doing some different things on defense and trying to hide that secondary until they get a little bit of experience?
Well, again, I really don't know exactly what they can do. I think Nick Saban's going to try to, let them get out there, learn on the run, so to speak, and give them an opportunity to show what they can do. And they, you've got to get them tested sometimes. So I think, early on, I think, with playing Wisconsin, they're certainly not known as a pass-oriented team, and so I think they're going to be okay there. That might give them an opportunity to get their feet wet, a lot of those guys. But I think as time goes on, I really think this unit back there I think they've taken it personally. I think they certainly want to be a group that is noticed as making a big improvement over last year, Gary. So I think they've really worked hard and kind of focused on what they're doing.
All right, you saw the depth chart pop up on your screen. Roddy mentioned just about all of those guys. As we said, Jackson got to look at safety. He could potentially move back to corner. Now, here are some ugly numbers, though, for last year in terms of the secondary. The 19 passing touchdowns were the most given up by a Saban defense since 2007, which, of course, was his first season, and he had not recruited really any of his players at that time. But those numbers you see there on your screen need to improve. That just doesn't look like an Alabama defense. 11th, 9th, 13th, and 10th in pass defensive rankings last season. Well, Rodney, stick around because we're coming back with much more on TITV. We'll tell you about the cash settlement that former Bama athletes are getting, and they'll have a little extra spending money. And next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Rodney will stay with us, so if you've got a question for him, you'll be able to call in. Phone lines are open right now at 205-348-9882. You can also email us or send us a question or comment on Twitter using the hashtag TiderInsiderTV, and BJ and Katarina will be checking for those, so if we get a Twitter question, we'll get it on the air too. We'll be back right after this. Tider Insider TV from Tuscaloosa on a Tuesday night. We'll continue. Stay with us. Some former and current Alabama athletes may have a nice payday on the way. As part of the EA Sports lawsuit settlement, the video game maker will allow student athletes whose likeness was used between 2003 and 2014 to collect up to $7,000 cash. Players and former players have until July 31st to make a claim. The NCAA is appealing the $60 million settlement. All right, let's head to the phone lines. We've got a couple callers lined up for us. First, our good buddy Trey in West Blockton. Trey, welcome into TITV. What you got for us tonight?
Well, I will not comment on the Tom Brady saga, since this is Tider Insider.
Yeah, let's stay away from that one.
Thank goodness. I'm tired of hearing about that. But, the college football playoff, second year, I think this is, obviously going to be much more of a litmus test in terms of, acceptance or rejection, of this format. I think, last year, everybody's just kind of curious, to see how it played out and, just wanted to gradually maybe get into the psyche of the committee members in terms of which criteria were emphasized and which, kind of took a back seat. But, the innate problem, of course, with, when it comes to the detractors, you're talking about Power 5 conferences, 5, obviously, only 4 spots. So you're going to have, those people, a certain contingent at the end of the season arguing, and heaven forbid, and I say that facetiously about what I'm about to say, because I think it's all about the best teams, but heaven forbid 2 teams from the same conference, make it ultimately. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Trey, it is. Good points. I tell you this, you're right. It was the first year. There's going to be criticism regardless of what system you used. Rodney, I like it. I don't know how you feel about it. I'll ask you. I think, it depends on how it works out for you. Last year it would have been good for Alabama not to have had a playoff because they would have been the #1 seed and they would have gone to the BCS championship game. But still, more years than not, I like the idea of 4 teams having an opportunity. I wouldn't even mind seeing going to 8. But I thought the first year went well other than the fact that Alabama lost to Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. But, I said all along, in my opinion, I thought they should have kept the BCS system but gone to 4 teams, taking the top 4, and I thought that would work better. Now, as I look forward, Gary, in my opinion, I look at TCU, a team like TCU and Baylor. I think there would be so much excitement, and I don't know how they would do it, but I do think they're going to have to expand. I don't know how soon they will. I know they say they've got a 12-year contract and all of this. I think eventually, I just don't know when, it's going to expand, and I think it probably should.
I agree with you, and I think, like Trey said, you got 5 power conferences. Somebody's getting left out every year, the current system. All right, let's go to Sunny Hole. I got to be honest with you, Jason. I've never heard of Sunny Hole, Alabama. Where's that at?
Well, Gary, I've talked to you before. It's usually Jason from Brilliant. It's in Marion County, but I live out in the country in a community called Sunny Home.
I got you. All right, well, good.
But I heard on the other day on Jocks FM that some guy from ESPN said if the season started today, that Cornwell would be the quarterback.
Yeah,
so
Jason.
What's wrong with Coker?
That's all just speculation. I'm sure he's talked to somebody. I've talked to some people. They've told me one thing. Rodney's talked to some people. I think they're going into fall camp. Rodney, you can chime in here. I think they're going into fall camp. I think this is an open quarterback competition. So I don't think anybody knows yet because I don't think the coaches know yet. Your thoughts?
I would agree with you 100%, Gary. I don't think, in the spring they played 4 guys, really 5, but Cooper Bateman did work some at wide receiver. They didn't make a decision. They did not have a decision. I do think David Cornwell had an outstanding spring, may have been, if you want to call a surprise of some sort, with the progress that he made. But I think going into fall camp, as you said, Gary, in August, they're going to pick the guy who performs best in camp. They'll probably start narrowing things down within the first 10 days a little bit if they can. I know they certainly hope that they'll be able to do that. But I would agree with you, Gary. I think it's, they're looking for the best guy still.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and last year it was interesting, and it worked out. We still weren't positive going into the West Virginia game how it was going to play out, but, Blake Sims got an opportunity, took advantage of it, and led Alabama to an SEC championship. So even though I'd like to have a starting quarterback going into fall camp, I think that's probably better for your football team. At the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. Well, more to come on TITV. Next, we'll update you on a couple of former Crimson Tide basketball players. Where are they heading to continue their professional careers? We'll tell you. And more phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines, I should say, are open at 205-348-9882. You can throw us an email, TITV@WVUA23.com, send that, or get up with us on Twitter using the hashtag TiderInsiderTV. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. 2 former Crimson Tide basketball players will see their pro careers continue in different places. Levi Randolph is going to go to camp with the Boston Celtics to try to make their club. He turned down numerous offers from overseas. Meanwhile, Trevor Lacey, his former teammate at Alabama who finished career at NC State, signed a contract with a professional team in Italy. We're about to head back to the phone calls. Rodney Orr on vacation, but he's been kind enough to join us from Panama City, Florida on the phone. Real quickly, Rodney, before we go to the phones, Sean Jennings, brother of Anthony Jennings, an Alabama signee from last year from down in central Alabama, is going to announce his commitment tonight. Alabama is in the mix, right?
Yes, Sean Jennings is safety from Dadeville. And it's Alabama, Auburn, and Memphis are his final 3. Gary, tonight he'll announce at 7. And, of course, most are projecting Alabama, but we'll see what happens at 7.
All right, we'll have that for you tonight on the news at 10. All right, BT is standing by in Tuscaloosa. BT, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, how come they don't get back to the Wildcat quarterback?
Rodney, with the situation this year with not having an established quarterback, last year you didn't need a Wildcat because you had Blake Sims. Do you think that's a package we might see with Derrick Henry or Kenyon Drake this year?
You know, Gary, remember we used to watch the tape of Derrick Henry in high school?
Yeah.
They would direct snap it to him, and he looked like Cam Newton when he would sweep out there. He just, with that number 2 on, and
Yeah.
now he's wearing that number 2 again. I think I would direct snap it to him some if it were me.
I think it's a possibility. Let's quickly go down to Moundville and talk to John Michael. Hey, John Michael, how are you?
Doing good. How y'all doing?
Very well. What you got tonight?
I'm just going to ask a question that had the front seven of the defense is so big.
How do they get so big?
How'd they go big?
Oh, they're going to be really good, John Michael. Rodney, we've talked about it a lot. We got 30 seconds, but this should be one of the strengths of the football team, correct?
You talking about the defensive front?
Front seven, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think, Gary, you know, the potential's there to be really dominant.
All right. Thanks for the phone calls. Rodney, thank you for joining us tonight. Get to dinner with your family, and we'll see you next week in studio. All right, when we come back, we are going to wrap up this edition of Tider Insider TV. Thanks for all the phone calls and emails. We'll be back right after this. Former Alabama gymnast Kim Jacob was highly decorated during her career. I mean, she just won everything there was to win, but she may still yet get another honor. The SEC nominated her as the league's representative for the 2015 NCAA Woman of the Year. Jacob was an 11-time All-American at Alabama and the 2014 NCAA All-Around Champion. So congratulations to Kim. All right, that is all the time we have for tonight's show. We thank you for joining us. And as always, we couldn't do this program without your participation. We'll see you again next week. A reminder, if you missed any of the show, you can catch a replay tonight on WVUA 23 at 10:30 following the news at 10, or online anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, who joined us on the phone, I'm Gary Harris. So long from Tuscaloosa and Tider Insider TV. Have a good night, everybody.